Hello, this is Barbara Nicolato, Nick Snacks. Today we're going to look at ways to use the Cosmic Shimmer pastes for watercoloring, coloring plain cardstock, for highlighting your embossing, or adding special touches to die cuts, for stamping and even stamping over. I'm really excited to be using these polishes today, and what I'm going to do is audition the colors. I have 6 of them that are metallic gilding polishes, and I have 4 of them that are opal polishes. It says before you use them that you should prime the sponge with some soapy water and then squeeze out the excess water before you use it. It's water-based and it's great to use on any porous surface. So the first thing you would do is snap out the sponge. It doesn't twist, you just snap it out. And then the top opens up. They also suggest when you're finished using this, before you put it away, to just take a little water and squeeze some in here. It is water-based and it'll prevent it from drying out. I've had mine for a few weeks now and they have not dried out. This can or doesn't have to be washed after you use it. I do like to run mine in water though and squeeze out all the excess water. It just, to me, it'll just keep the sponge softer that way. So let's look at some of these colors before we get into the projects. I'm going to show you what they look like on black cardstock and on white cardstock. Of course, they can be used on any color of cardstock, but let's just look at the differences. So this is the golden olive, and it's got a tinge of green to it and a tinge of gold. It pretty much looks the same. The color does on white or on black. The next color is treasure gold. Oh, this is more of a golden gold, a yellow gold color. I have rich red. This would be great for holidays, Christmas holidays. And then we have a red bronze. And that is more of a bronze color. All right, let's continue. For metallic, I also have Silver Dream and Ocean Teal. Definitely a beautiful silver. The teal. Wow, that's really pretty. Now let me show you the magic of the opal polish. Summer sky, gorgeous blue, right? Well, this is like getting 2 colors in one. Here it is, a beautiful light blue with a glimmer. But what happens when we put it on black? Wow, it's got tinges of gold all the way through it. And that's why these are the opal polishes. Pink thistle. Actually looks purple, right? Beautiful purpley color. And on black, surprise, it's a pink color. Now, blue parakeet definitely looks green, right? I was wondering why they called it blue parakeet. when it's green? Well, it's green. It's more of a citrusy lime kind of green on white cardstock. And on black cardstock, it's blue, like a blue-green. And finally, I have the copper pearl. It definitely looks pearly with very warm tones like a copper in it. And on white cardstock, oh, this would be excellent as snow or a moon. Gorgeous, gorgeous color. Wow. What happens when we put it on black? It's copper. So the opal polishes, when you buy those, they're almost like getting two colors in one. Now that you've seen the colors that I have, and by the way, there's many, many more choices at the Bello's Designs shop. Check it out. I'm going to use these in a couple of projects. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to color the background, let it dry, and then I'm going to use this die from Sweet Poppy Stamps called Indian Moth. It goes with the Indian Moth stencil. And I'm going to cut it out. So let's see. I'm going to go with the Gold Treasure. If you don't have gold cardstock, you can actually just use this over a color or white, and now you have some gold cardstock. So look at the beautiful finish on this card. This is 80-pound paper. This can be used as a mat if you want to put a topper over it, or I'm going to cut out my butterfly. So let me just put this aside for now. And when this is dry, I'll use my die cutter. I'm going to say, this dries quickly. I'm going to say about 5 minutes it should be ready to go. Next thing I'm going to do is I have this Tim Holtz Sizzix embossing folder. It's one of the thicker ones. I'm going to use the gold again. I'm going to apply gold, and I'm going to use it on the deboss side. How do you know the deboss? The deboss side has the ridges sticking up. It's usually what we would consider the back side of our embossing folder. All right, I'm going to go very gently. I'm not going to use too much product. I don't want to go deep. I want to stay right over top of these leaves. I'm going to use some black cardstock, and I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. Okay, I'm back, and I'm going to use a baby wipe to just get some of this cleaned off. Now, if it doesn't all come off, it should, even with warm, sudsy water. But if it doesn't come off, just know that the next time you go to use this, the gold will not be coming off onto your project. So what I've accomplished here is in the depressed area, the debossed area, I have the gold tone that I used here. This is treasure gold. On top, I'm going to use some olive and some red bronze. Again, you want to coat the sponge, but you don't want it too thick. What this is going to do now is I'm going to cover the parts that are sticking up. The reason I rub the applicator on the media mat on the right side there is to make sure that the entire sponge is covered equally in product. I'm liking the way this is turning out. A little of that parakeet. And look at that. Look at the colors on this. Wow, they're just as beautiful as the fall foliage outside. So what I've done now is I've used some metallic copper colored paper and a Tim Holtz leaf. This is an embossing folder that also cuts. And I die cut these two leaves. And what I'm going to do is just apply an edging. Now I'm putting it on metallic cardstock already, so it's already has a nice sheen to it. I'm going to do a little bit of the red. And a little bit of the olive. Just to add a little more interest. And I'm going to bring back the embossing folder that I did. I've added a couple little embellishments right here, some burlap and some cork paper with a little jute bow. And I'm going to glue. Actually, I'm going to be using the dimensionals so that it doesn't lie flat. I want it to look propped up a little bit. And look at the beautiful card with all the glittery metallic colors. It's beautiful, right? All right, next, I'm taking an embossing folder called Geometric. We are memory keepers. And I'm going to emboss some white and some black cardstock together. I'll be right back. This did a nice three-dimensional embossing pattern. I really like that. All right, so let's try the opal polish, which again, the copper pearl opal polish is going to give me a copper effect on black. Now I'm going to put some blue sky over top of it. It's fun to see the results of different color combinations. I think I was a little too heavy-handed over here when I first did this, but that's okay. I'm going to put another color over this. And we'll see what that looks like. How about the pink thistle? That's beautiful too. Now I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to use a stamp with these pastes. And I'm going to put it on my surface here first. And then I'm also going to try to apply it directly and see what the difference is. By the way, this stamp is the Dragonfly from the Sweet Poppy Stencil set called Dragonfly Blooms. And here it is. And I have that on an acrylic stamping block. So let me try to apply this directly to the stamp. I'm going to take and put some water on that. Mix it it up a little. Oh, I think I got a little carried away there. So with this experience, I'm thinking that it's best to apply the paste directly to the stamp and not be heavy-handed. Yeah, this is a little gloppy here and there. You know, I'm thinking, what if I have some Wow Earl Grey embossing powder? What if I pour this onto the paste? Just want to see if it sticks. Let me try to see what happens when I heat it. Well, it definitely worked. The paste held the embossing powder. When I heated it, the paste dried and the embossing powder melted. And there you go. You got something with a little bit of texture. Let's use the paste to watercolor. Now let me try my teal first. Let's try some pink thistle. And maybe some red. I'm going to spray a little water onto these pastes to loosen them up a bit. And then with a wet brush, I'm going to go in and use them as I would with a watercolor. Oh, that's really pretty. Well, it definitely works well as a watercolor. The metallic. This is an opal color. And then let's try the red, which is another metallic. There we go. So definitely they work beautifully as metallic and opalescent colors when you want to do some watercoloring. All right, so I'm back to one of the first pieces. I used the Indian moth, and I've used the treasure gold on white cardstock. It dried, and I die cut it. Then I decided to, just for ha-has, run this through an embossing folder of Clocks and Gears by Cuttlebug, and I got this kind of an effect. And I'm thinking, gee, this could be used later on for something. I have the Indian Moth stencil by Sweet Poppy Stencils, and I'm sure this could be made on something. This could be laid over top of it. That would be pretty cool. I might try that later. Okay, so back to this piece. I'm going to lie it down on the magnetic sheet, and I'm going to use the stencil over it. Let's see if I could get the antennae to lie correctly under there. It's kind of hard to line everything up. There we go. So I've got blue parakeet. If I did this directly on white or black cardstock, again, different colors would result. This is the summer sky. I've got my red. Olive. And all this is laid over top of the gold paper that I covered with paste. I think I lost a lot of the detail in here. I'm going to backpedal here, and I took a sheet of white cardstock and the stencil over top of it. And I'm going to repeat the same process and see if the results are a little clearer. I'm putting the polish on a little thicker at this point, and I'm trying to press it in so that it goes into the fine, detailed cutouts of this stencil. There, that's a lot better, I think. This can be trimmed away. This can be decorated a little more. And at the end of the video, I'll show you how I made all these little projects into cards. And then, of course, when this dries, I can take the die and line it up and cut it out. I can embellish it even more. Another thing I want to show you today is that I've embossed again with the Cuttlebug folder with timepieces and gears. I've embossed this sheet of black cardstock, and I'm going to start with that, and I'm going to use some of my opal polishes. So I'm going to start with the copper pearl. And give that a little bit of summer sky. So right now I'm getting copper and golds from these two colors. I'm going to add in some blue parakeet. This should actually give me blue. And then some pink thistle. And you know, I think I'm going to add a little silver to this. Silver Dream gilding polish. So as long as you don't use a heavy hand like I did in here and a couple of spaces, and try to stay on top, you'll get the black card underneath, and the embossed parts will take up the paste and give you the colors you're after. Here's another little technique where I'm going to be doing some stenciling with these polishes, and then I'm also going to stamp a leaf from the Autumn Leaves Sweet Poppy Stencils stamp set. And I'm going to use the VersaFine Clair Nocturne. So I'm going to start with my bronze. And this stencil by Lavinia is called Leaf Mask, and this one is called Flurry. Now, I was heavy-handed because I wanted to make sure that the paste, the polish, I should say, went through the stencil. And as a result, it's a little higher than the paper. It's lifted a little, so it almost looks like a texture type of polish or paste. I'm going to let that dry, and I'll be right back. I gave this about 10-15 minutes to dry because the polish on it is a lot thicker than on the other ones that I did. And now I'm going to come in with Lavinia Flurry stencil and some Distress glaze. And basically it's clear, it's a little waxy. And I'm just going to put some over this stencil. And it's going to act like a resist onto the paper. There you go. I'm just going to pop this in water. My next step is I'm going to spray the background here with the Lavinia Mysticals MICA-INFUSED mist sprays in Chestnut Bay and in Mahogany Twist. I'm going to bring in a cardboard box that I use so that my sprays don't mess up my other work area here. So here's the Mahogany Twist. This is the Chestnut Bay. There. Now I'm going to set that aside to dry, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to store these. So I'm going to take them apart and I'm going to put this in a little cup of water and I'm going to squirt till the water comes out clean. And this way I know that it will not clog up this little pipe in here. I've used the heat tool to help this dry quickly. And what I'm going to do now is take a paper towel and I'm going to just blot up where the distress glaze was. Because don't forget, it's like a waxy type of coating that acts as a resist. Okay, my next step is to take, I'm going to put a piece of printer paper underneath, and I'm going to get my golden olive. And in a circular motion, I'm going to apply it to the edge of the card, going all around evenly. This layer is so much thinner compared to what I put in here that it's very flat, not textured. It does have a really nice metallic sheen to it, and it's going to dry quickly. As a matter of fact, it's already dry. Great. So now it's ready for stamping. So here's the oak leaf from the autumn leaf set from Sweet Poppy, and I'm going to take the VersaFine Claire Nocturne. And I'm going to stamp all the way around the border of the card to give it a leafy edge. As I do this, I'm careful to continuously turn the stamp at different angles, rotating it so that the design doesn't look like it's just a repeat all the way around. Doing this also adds a lot more interest to the design. There we go. Now, one of the nice things about this is that I don't have to have any special pigment type ink, anything heavy. This VersaFine Claire works fine on this, and it dries beautifully. Let me just make sure it's dry, and I'll show you that it does not smudge. And there you go. There's no smudging. It dried quickly. And now I'm going to make this into a card, and I'll show you what I come up with. In the meantime, if you're crafting along with me and you're going to be putting these away, don't forget, we give it a quick little spray with water before we close it up. And this will guarantee that when we open them next time, they won't be dried out. Now it's time to take a look at the cards I've created behind the scenes. This was the butterfly that I stamped. Actually, it's the Indian moth that I stamped on white cardstock. And the one that I stamped on the paper that I gilded in gold, I actually did a little bit of a save with liquid pearls and some glitter drops. And I just decorated it a little bit. And I decided to put it right back into where I cut it out. Just glued down the middle part to give it a little bit of a 3D look. This is the dragonfly that I watercolored and I fussy cut, and I could probably use this one in a project. This is one of the borders that I did using the summer sky and the pink thistle. This is one that I did with the leaf embossing folder, and I decorated. I used a sentiment from Sweet Poppy Stencils called Autumn Leaves. Autumn is the year's last loveliest smile. And then I did another one, and I gave it a black mat and a mat of some burlap with a bow. And then this is the embossing folder that I went over. I added some die cut gears and the sentiment birthday wishes, also from Sweet Poppy Stamps Autumn Leaves. And finally, the last card. I used a black cardstock as matte, and also in here an orangey colored of corrugated cardstock. And then I trimmed this down a little bit and I lined it with black marker, and this completes my card. I hope I've inspired and given you ideas to try using the Cosmic Shimmer polishes. If you've enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up. As always, a list of materials used are at the bottom of this video, and I hope you'll visit us at delbellosdesigns.com for most of your crafting supplies. We have 2 Facebook groups listed here where you can post your makes using Lavinia or other products from Del Bello's. I hope to see your creations there. Happy crafting!